Hi everyone, welcome to LEARNTech Asia's Access to Job webinar series. My name is Sao Fong. I am the head of LEARNTech Asia. Thank you for joining us today. At learntechasias.com, we are an independent and impartial platform telling stories of learning innovations in K-12, tertiary, workplace learning, upskilling and reskilling in all communities in Asia. We also host conferences and online events to highlight opportunities powered by educators' creativity and learning technology. Today's Access to Jobs webinar series, we focus on FinTech. As you know, the COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated innovation and disruptions. It has shifted and increased expectations. The future has happened faster. The digital revolution is shaping how we live, work, and do business like never before in history. The rapid advancements of technologies, including artificial intelligence, machine learning, and fintech apps, has already fundamentally changed business models, institutions, and society as a whole, and it will continue to do so at an increasing pace. FinTech in Southeast Asia gained historical moments over the past year. Singapore, Malaysia, and the Philippines made headways in their digital bank license programs. Indonesia introduced new regulations to force traditional banks to work closely with startups or consolidate. Southeast Asia has seen a FinTech boom and immense growth since 2016. But this market is still considered under-penetrated. Further substantial growth of this sector is expected, and with it, there will be strong demand for human capital able to fuel this growth. Today, we have a panel of experts to share with us their insights on various opportunities relating to careers and skills in the industry, in the FinTech industry. You will get to learn about the success stories of industry experts in their professional development, the challenges and opportunities, and most importantly, how you can stay relevant in this fast-changing world of work. For those of you who are watching, please type in your question in the comments window at any time during the session, and we will get them to the stage. Participating in the discussions are Ju Sing, the co-founder and CEO of Spark System, Chi Keong, CEO Singapore Global Trust, Yi Hua, she's the director and CEO of NH Expansion, Kevin Pang, Secretary Blockchain Association of Singapore, Julian Ng, Assistant Director and FinTech and Innovation Group Monetary Authority of Singapore, MAS. And our moderator today is Ching Ching. She is the Assistant Director at the Sandbox, the Innovation and Entrepreneurial Department within Ngee Poly. She is in charge of Poly FinTech 100 program, which aims to prepare the next generations of manpower of the FinTech industry. She's also involved in the Global Entrepreneurial and Internship program, whereby they send selected students to overseas internship in startup. I will hand over the webinar to our moderator, Ching Ching, who can speak a little bit more about what she does, and she will introduce the panel. Welcome to the stage, everyone.
Thank you very much. Good morning, all. Thank you, Sao Fong, for the welcome note. I'm Chin Chin, the director of Sandbox, which is the Innovation and Entrepreneurship Office of Ngee Ann Polytechnic in Singapore. I'll be moderating today's webinar. Before my life as an educator, I was in the financial services sector for last 20 plus years. With my last job with the Clearing House, I was one of the leads to launch FAST and Pay Now, which was built on the FAST infrastructure, the online payment system in Singapore. This is really another foresight by the banking industry to launch it for the adoption. And we can see that how FAST and Pay Now transactions actually shot up during COVID-19. According to newspaper report, FAST transaction volumes averaged more than 12.5 million per month in the third quarter of 2020, with Pay Now transaction volumes accounting for almost half of all the transactions. What a year 2020 has been, right? All of you would have said. While we saw global expansion in fintech firms in 2019, with COVID-19, we have seen how it has upended businesses and individuals, and many startups are also facing challenges. While there's always a saying, never let a pandemic go to waste, we saw how digitalization efforts were accelerated and many fintechs and technology-focused businesses thrive as we see people increasingly move from physical to online interactions for their daily activities, just like the session we are having now. With this increase in demand for fintech products and services, particularly in the Southeast Asia region, we'll ask the panelists what are their thoughts on the fintech's growth prospects over the next few years, and where can we find jobs for young graduates as well as mid-career professionals who are interested to move into fintech. So let us welcome the panelists, very established ones, Mr. Wong Joo Seng, Mr. Ong Chi Keong, Ms. Lin Yi Hua, Mr. Kelvin Pang, and Mr. Julian Ng. Can each of you do a quick introduction of yourself? Let us start with Joo Seng.
Hi all, thanks Jing Ching for the opportunity and Xiao Fong for the opportunity to speak to everyone this morning. Hi all, my name is Joo Seng, and I guess many would classify me as a serial entrepreneur, even though I do not see myself that way. The first half of my career very quickly was actually in mainstream banking. I was a derivative trader for several banks based here in Singapore as well as in their London and New York offices. My focus was currency options and precious metal options. The first opportunity I had to start up a company of my own was old school finance. I was or am the founding CEO of GK Gold Financial Services. And this was the derivative trading arm of then one of the big three stockbrokers in Singapore. GK was a pure equity house, single product. They sold stocks only, and I came on board to broaden the product range. The subsidiary that I set up, GK Gold Financial Services, offered stock index or stock indices, Nikkei, Hang Seng, etc., foreign exchange, precious metals, base metals, energy, agriculturals, and so on. I built the business up, was there for 15 years as the founding CEO, and grew it into the largest FX trading operation in Asia, well outside of Japan. Thereafter, I spotted two sort of pain points in the industry. I noticed post the Asian currency crisis, a lot of Singaporeans began to trade more than just Singapore and Malaysia stocks. So that was the main sort of focus. But trading, because of the dot-com bubble, because Amazon, because Microsoft, because Apple became very good names and very investable, there was a need to offer trading on a global scale. So I started, co-founded a company called MDAQ, spelled MDAQ. And the focus of MDAQ was really to quote foreign stocks in local currency. So I could quote Amazon stocks in Sing dollars to a Sing audience, Amazon stock in yen to Japanese audience, Amazon stock in euro dollars to European audience. Company did well. Initial funding came from my then employers because I had to tell them I wanted to resign. And they were worried at first because back then in 2010, it was not really the done thing. I had built a good business. It was the leading FX house, and it was unusual for them to see someone want to leave. But after I explained what I wanted to do and sort of settled their concerns over reputational risk and conflict of interest issues, etc., they gave me my blessing and in fact became my largest Series A investor. GK, I then left GK to start MDAQ, of course, and the Series A was well supported by GK and my I would say connection of friends and network of friends. Series B was done with venture capital, big banks. Citibank came in, Vickers, which is a Singapore leading venture capital firm, as well as a few other VCs. GSR, I'm not sure many of you have heard the name, but it's run by a Singaporean and it's based in Palo Alto. and one of the big ones. They have about 1.5 billion under management at that time. After that, Series B, I did a Series C, which brought in a very big Chinese giant e-commerce, and they valued the company at that time 250 million, and offered to buy a 40% stake in the company at 100 million. I agreed to the deal, and that transaction happened towards the end of 2015. Thereafter, I focused on my now current project, which is Spark Systems. And Spark is a very simple business idea. We build next generation high-speed trading platforms for banks, for brokerages, for hedge funds. We pit ourselves against very renowned names like Definitive or Reuters, Bloomberg, and so on. But for me, it is as a user, because I've spent a career in the industry, I know that the current platforms are generally old and slow and expensive to use. So that's it for me. I will just step back from now. I hope I took the allocated time and didn't overshoot too much.
Thank you, Joe. And how many of you would have asked your ex-boss or your ex-company to fund your startup? What a wise move, Joe. Next, if we may have Chi Kyung, please.
Oh, hi, Chin Chin. Thank you so much, and thank you, LEARNTech Asia, for having us on this webinar. And very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone here, depending on your time zone. So my name is Chi Kyung. I'm currently the CEO of a FinTech company called Singapore Global Trust. So prior to co-founding this FinTech company, I was a banker like Ju and Chin Chin. I was in the bank for more than 12 years. Very much in the consumer banking space before I left the banking industry in 2016. So during my stay at the bank, I was doing a lot of investment banking, mortgages, lending, support to SMEs, and my last position at the bank is actually with customer experience. So what we do there is basically we design the customer experience for all the channels leading to banking services. For example, your ATM, internet banking, your branch experience and everything. So don't be surprised when you go to a bank, right? Every touch point, along your interaction with the banks are properly designed in such a way. So in 2016, I went over to Cambodia, a very big move there, because there happens to have an opportunity for me to venture there. To serve as a special advisor to the board of directors at one of the local consortium, which is very big. They are into 6 very major businesses, including IT infrastructure, power, energy, education, healthcare, etc., etc. So during my stay at Cambodia, it was there then. Actually, I didn't really started from FinTech. So my journey into FinTech is very coincidental, very circumstantial. So back then, I saw this gap in the market in Cambodia for special needs children, and that was when I started my first entrepreneurship, founding a special needs school in Cambodia. The name is called My Little Pumpkin, and it is still running in Cambodia today. So while I was working as a corporate advisor there, I founded this school. Then during my time there, it was then I got associated with the blockchain community back in Cambodia, and that was when I got really interested in technology, in blockchain, and how the whole thing works, the application and all. So of course, that at that time in 2015, 2016, when you talk about blockchains, it comes with AI, so artificial intelligence as well. So I started to study into these areas. So then back in 2018, I came back over to Singapore, and of course my mind is full of AI and blockchain. So I started to invest and co-founding tech companies. So one of the very first venture that I gotten into is to be advisor and also invested in invested in one of the fintech company, edutech company in Singapore. The name is called Genie Book. Basically, what happened is that they use artificial intelligence to design the program to customize worksheet for children. So I think for now they have been doing very well. So they have gotten their patent right back in 2018. with the help of A-Stars and NUS. So now I think then from there, AI, and that's how I ventured into the very next venture called Helicat, where it was founded by my friend of mine. And similarly, they are using AI to use it for their portfolio management. So the fintech company is actually an asset management company, right? That uses artificial intelligence to help them with their portfolio allocation. So in the past, a lot of manpower, right, has been used on studying the P&Ls of companies and stuff, and before a company really invest into a company. So right now we are actually migrating this capability into, using AI. So for a while we were testing this capability in using AI for asset management. So we do a lot of beta and all, and we come to a point whereby okay, so we are satisfied that the outcome using brain power and using AI is almost the same. Then we launched the AI platform. That was my venture into fintech space, and shortly after, then beginning this year, I ventured into the trust space. So for the trust space, is also very coincidental. What happened was that when I was at my previous outfit, right? So we deal with a lot of family officers and stuff. And to my surprises, there's only like 60 trust companies in Singapore. So I thought, wow, there must be a lot of opportunity, because if you might have read somewhere, there was about 300 single family offices that was being set up last year alone in Singapore, and each of them hold a collective AUM of more than 300 billions. So I thought, wow, probably, and of course, then my mind started to spin again and say, hey, of course, being a trust company, it is a financial services, it's a very traditional space, and how then we can, energize this space using technology. And that's where I came in, and later I'll elaborate more on how we are using technology in the trust space. So other than a technopreneur, I'm also an active community activist. I've been at the grassroots, serving at the grassroots for more than 13 years now. So I have been awarded the Public Service Medal just this year by the President of Singapore.
Good.
And yeah, so yeah, really nice meeting all of you here, and I'm quite sure we'll have a very candid and interesting sharing today. So thank you, Chin Chin, back to you.
Thank you, Chi Kyong. I still want that music to the ears, to the community here, the blockchain, AI, UI, UX. So hold that there. So with that, we move on to Nihua. Yeah.
Hello, can you all hear me?
And
Yes.
And okay. My name is Wu Hua. Happy and honored to be invited to speak. We all mostly originate from tech or finance background, and many of you are bankers. From investments, there's a big difference. I started having a bachelor degree in building 25 years ago, which is a discipline specialized in asset management and project management. I have some articles on construction economics published in international journals and journals of Stock Exchange of Singapore. So I was also a founding member of Far East Venture Capital Arm, where I do strategic investments with Microsoft and also manage their high-tech incubation center. And from there, I've done with investments in technology, property, and infrastructures across geographies, and developed new business mainly through these acquisitions and operations. I also complete my CFA level 2 in the midst of hectic work trips before I moved permanently overseas for over a decade in East Asia, Shanghai, Beijing, and Tokyo, and Australia, where I invest in properties and asset managed accumulated portfolio of 2 billion under private equity fund and REIT of Escort, including a Japanese residential portfolio that was subsequently divested to Blackstone. I also acquired ESG projects, which is very hot now, but that was quite some time when I acquired it, for Sembcorp Environmental, including its first project in India. I was based in India and set up their rep office. My first Indian acquisition, Ramki, is subsequently divested to KKR. So both Sembcorp and Escort companies are Temasek Link company, which I concurrently developed new business for them through these mentioned acquisitions. I'm an executive committee member of Singapore FinTech for 2 years in 2019 to 2021 in March, where I was also one of the judges for Singapore FinTech Award 2019 and 2020. I was recently recognized as the leading female leader in Asia, the only Singaporean on the list in the FinTech Times, where there are about 50,000 unique visitors on their online version platform. As an expert, specifically in InvestTech, which is commonly known as wealth tech, because bankers like to call it wealth tech. So a lot of bankers that dominate the vocabulary in the fintech space. Today, I'm based in Singapore. I advise on expansion strategies as intermediaries for alternative investments on prop and tech under NH expansion. NH stands for niche and hot investments. I have a 11-part hot niche and hot invest tech top series where I gather incumbent C-suites executives from traditional industries like banks, insurance, etc., and 2 tech founders to compare traditional with tech platforms for opportunities and risk investments. There will be a slide later where you can scan the QR code to follow the webinar if you are interested on wealth tech. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Neha. You are truly an inspiring story whereby you not only you venture overseas, but I love the way that you combine your property knowledge and the tech part of it. So we'll hear more from you later on. Can we have Kevin, please?
Oh, sure. Thank you. Hi, my name is Kevin. I'm the secretary of the Blockchain Association of Singapore, one of the few associations that are championing blockchain in Singapore. I'm also the chairman of SG Tech Blockchain Committee. So SG Tech used to be going by a former name called Singapore IT Federation, been around for 40 over years. So they've been championing all the various tech stuff like cloud, AI, etc. So I happen to champion for blockchain in that space. I'm also part of a global organization called Global Impact FinTech Foundation. So this is a 55 different country, with members from 55 different countries, organizations supported, endorsed by UN, United Nations, WEF, World Bank, IMF, ADB, and etc. So I'm one of the board members, together with quite a few folks from Singapore. Driving fintech adoption, inclusion, sustainability across the world with support from the various world organizations I just mentioned. Okay, so a bit for myself is that I currently run a couple of companies, one of which is actually dealing in payments using blockchain and cryptocurrency. This is one of the entities that actually applied for the Payment Services Act license in Singapore that's issued by MAS. So one of the license, the operating under exemption during this process of license application. My background is a bit slightly different from anyone else. I used to be from the corporate IT and telco services. I've been around in the corporate and IT telco services for the past, before I converted over to FinTech and all that, for almost 24 years. I've been in IBM, HP, Orange, British Telecom, StarHub, Singtel. So a lot of companies I've been there across different countries, kind of MNCs in terms of IT and telco. I came into FinTech in 2015. That was when I started to kind of mentor and advise a couple of FinTech companies, some of which are pretty, I think, famous now in the current time. So I was with as an entrepreneur and resident with a couple of accelerators, helping all these FinTech companies. This is also when I actually converted right from from purely tech industry to financial services, so going into payment services and all that. And I was actually MoneyGram, so that's when I actually consolidated my payment, I would say, domain expertise, and then that's why I actually founded my own company. So I'm very heavy champion of blockchain as a technology, which explains why I'm actually in those associations going for public service. I mean, kind of helping in the public as well as like championing as a technology that potentially companies or even individuals can look into. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kelvin. I'm very happy to hear that from an IT background and how you volunteer at the right place in your associations, and that's where you pick up your skills and you have pivoted very quickly from that. That is also something for which the audience can learn as well. Last but not least, we have Julian. Julian, can you please do your self-introduction, please?
Thanks, Ching. Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here today. So my name is Julian. I currently work at the MAS in the FinTech and Ecosystem Office. So my journey is not as storied as the rest of these esteemed panelists. My journey in FinTech started off, I think, a while back in a payments company. Back before QR payments was actually mainstream. Um, so this was when Alipay and WeChat Pay had already taken off in China. They were trying to establish it in Singapore. It was a interesting time. We faced a lot of resistance trying to get people to take up QR payments, because then it was like, what is QR? How does it work? Is it safe? Is it trustable? What if someone just cheats me of my money, etc.? So that was an interesting time. This was quite a while back. And then after that, I moved on to OCBC's Innovation Lab, known as the Open Door, where I got to drive Southeast Asia's second largest banks and its bank and its innovation efforts. Right, we worked with the various business units, trying to figure out their problem statements, what were they facing, how could we solve it using fintech solutions. Banks are traditionally very slow-moving organizations for good reasons, because everyone's money is there, you've got to keep it safe. Uh, so how do we sort of experiment with fintechs in a different setting, run proof of concepts, to bring value to the business, as well as to get fintechs absorb their solutions utilized within the bank. After that, I did a short stint in corporate banking where I focus primarily on tech companies. And then today I'm at the MAS, where I sit in the FinTech and Innovation group, where it gives a more macro view of FinTech and innovation. We work on policies to help grow the ecosystem. How do we help to grow the space through talent, through various policies, through various schemes? So that's me. Over to you, Ching Ching.
Yeah, thank you, Gillian. Very often when we launch a new technology, sometimes we say that the technology is ahead of its time. I mean, I can really empathize in what you have gone through, and I'm sure your knowledge that you gleaned from both the private and the public sector will be something that we're very keen to hear further. So thank you all for your introduction. Today we are exploring the topic, which is access to jobs in the fintech field. It's a very relevant question in today's current time. In the opening remark by Mr. Ravi Menon, the MD of MAS and Chairman Institute of Banking and Finance, at the launch of study on future of finance jobs on 23rd April 2020, he mentioned that jobs and skills landscape in the financial industry is a lot more complex and uncertain today. Technology is transforming finance, and the way financial services are produced, distributed, and consumed are also different. This means that jobs in the financial services will also be transformed. So we therefore need to take a more sophisticated, integrated, and purposeful approach to prepare our workforce for future of jobs. So today we have 5 distinguished panelists with fintech experience in different areas. So look forward to hearing their expert views in the fintech space. Let's start with Ju Sing. You hail from an illustrious banking environment, starting with UOB and Republic National Bank of New York, Bank of New Zealand. Subsequently, you joined GK Gold, just like what we heard just now, and you run the GK Gold Financial Services. Perhaps that's the start of your enterprising spirit. You went on to launch 2 startups, which you shared with us just now. So share with us, how did you cross over from traditional banking to the fintech industry, whereby jeans and t-shirt are the dress code of the day? I'm sure you are in that now.
Hi, Ching Ching. Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. I would say that I kind of stumbled in the space, and I had the fortunate beginnings of being mentored with a very good first boss, whose focus was really on learning and understanding. So I had at UOB an opportunity to be attached to the branches, literally, opening and closing shutters in the morning. I was given an attachment to their credit department, which is a core area for banking, and also an attachment in international trade and finance, which is letters of credit, bills of lading, before moving into treasury, where I was rotated around the spot trading desk, the forward and swap desk, the funding desk. It was a very comprehensive beginning, and it bore fruit later on, because as GK was looking to branch out and widen their product range, joining a company when there is a vacation, someone has vacated the spot. So whether you're joining as a CEO or CFO or COO of large established companies, I think it's quite straightforward. If you have the skill sets and you're keen on the role, you make a pitch for the role, and if you get it, you kind of know what to do. I think starting from scratch, as in pure white canvas, the company doesn't exist, there's no procedures, there's no one in any role, was a different challenge. And I felt that even though at that time I'd never done anything like that before, because of the comprehensive sort of foundation that I had, I felt that it was worth a go. Basically, it was a personal call. I thought that I know what the dealing teams need to see. I know the equity they need to look at. I know the leverage factors that they will have to work with. I know from the account side what the reporting ratios were, what were the requirements to MAS in particular. And then, beyond that, I looked at the compliance side, and I know what a compliance officer needs to look at, what they want to check for. Are you looking for traders that are spoofing the market? You have to check for anti-money laundering, etc., etc. So I had a comprehensive picture, and that gave me a start. I must say something which I found out. As much as people often say nothing is as easy as it looks, I would give the reverse side of that coin. Nothing is as difficult as it seems. If you just roll up your sleeves and jump into the trench, you'll figure it out, right? And even in those areas where you don't have expertise in that particular vertical, you can always call for help. I mean, you have a wide community. I would call this, I often call this, an interesting moment in time. The Greeks have two terms for time, chronos and kairos. And chronos is the root word for chronology, which is sequential time as we know it. Kairos is that important crossroads of time where opportunity, events, circumstances all meet. And I believe that we are in a kairos moment right now. Okay? An example of a kairos moment would be us here in Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore. Yes, you have a brilliant man, right, who could see, who was sort of equipped to guide the country, but he had very harsh policies, which you needed a population just out of the Japanese occupation, just out of British colonial rule, to have that steadfastness to say, let's keep voting him in, right? Election after election, so that he has time to do his work. He needed a team of very capable lieutenants, Dr. Goh Keng Swee, S. Rajaratnam, E.W. Barker, Hon Swee Sen, and the whole group. So it wasn't just one man, right? It was a whole series of events and circumstances that supported. I think we are currently at this point in FinTech, not just FinTech, but biotech, AI, blockchain, life science, etc. People are stepping out. The ecosystem is very refined now. 2-3 decades ago, if you want to start your own company, you really roll the dice and take a lot of risk. You quit your job and your salary goes to nil. You probably have to reach into the savings you've accumulated to fund the venture that you want to start. If you succeed, well and good. But if you fail, it can be a financial setback that will take you years, if ever, to recover, right? Today, you look at the ecosystem, yeah, you quit your job, your salary goes to zero. But if you have an idea, you then pitch to interested investors. And funding is available if you have a good idea and it's properly thought through how you want to execute. And if you tell your funders, I can't live on zero income, right? I need to have something. I'm prepared to take a haircut, maybe half my pay, maybe 30%, 1/3 off, whatever it is. Most investors will allow for it because they know that a CEO or core team that's in financial difficulty can't really focus on the job at hand anyway. So and then you build a team, right? Someone in finance comes in as your CFO, someone with tech comes in as your CTO. Everyone takes a haircut because that's part of how you show that you want to build something new and you want to have a part of it. investors also want to see entrepreneurs with skin in the game. So the ecosystem is so well built now, and I think even the larger incumbent financial institutions, A, see the threat very clearly, and B, are prepared to buy successful outfits, right? This is something we only ever saw in the pharmaceutical industry, where many individual efforts are starting up, and once something takes root, like a cure for cancer or a certain class of cancer or a cure for any kind of illness, the big farmers will come in and buy the unit. So this whole development where incumbents scout the whole landscape for any interesting breakthrough and then buy it is essentially something quite new to fintech. The banks used to always build their own, banks and insurance companies. So it's a lovely time. Whether you're new and you don't have any background information, it can be used as an advantage because you don't have groupthink. Think of Steve Jobs, think of Zuckerberg, think of Bill Gates as they start as fresh graduates, or maybe some didn't even graduate, but they started because they have no legacy experience. For many, and this is the often unspoken part, I actually think there's a big role to play for people who are incumbents in industry, because you spend years, decades in industry, and you can tell yourself, if only this could be done, or if only that could be done, it would make a tremendous change. It would help smooth the flow of the work. The workflow. It would help get things done better. So you have deep insights into the market, and often that's kind of overlooked. They just looked at, these are sort of the incumbents in industry, they're getting old. I actually find some of the biggest startups that I fund as a venture capitalist run by people who really know the industry, people from the oil and gas, people in engineering, who understand where the issues are, and they are practitioners. So they don't just stand there and lord over others, but if they need to, they can jump in themselves and get the job done. So value both ways. I think we just need to sell what we are best at. So if you're starting new, then your advantage is you have no idea what's been done wrong all these years. You're happy to go in, put a fresh pair of eyes on things and move ahead with that. If you've been in the industry, then think about your experience and think about how long it's taken you to garner that experience and try to use it to your advantage.
Thank you, Joo Seng. You have a lot of gems that you have shared just now. The importance of having a mentor right from day one who give you the ropes, and don't be afraid to learn every aspect of the job. You never know when you need it, right? From compliance to operations to maybe even rolling and closing the shutters. And that's how all of us learn, And I like your statement. You say that nothing is as difficult as it seems. I think that is something key that I will take away and I will remember as well. So thank you for sharing, Joo Seng. Chi Kyung, I've seen your LinkedIn profile. Coincidentally, you also have your roots in UOB Bank, and you have started business in preschool, like what you shared just now. And you have recently kickstarted the Singapore Global Trust Company, for you saw there was really a gap in the market. So can you share with us how was your journey into fintech? You mentioned is accidental, if I may use the Chinese term, is a bit of 误打误撞, or something which you have purposefully planned. Can you share with us more?
Thank you, Chin Chin. Yes, I also started off from UOB, and there was this joke say UOB stands for University of Bank, right? So yes, you are right. My journey into the fintech space is not planned at all, actually. So that time, like what I briefly shared just now, I left in 2016. So that time was really like, I have like 12 years, 13 years in the banking industry already. And that time I was thinking, hey, I should be bringing my financial expertise, knowledge to the corporate, the other end of the corporate world. And that's how I left Singapore to Cambodia. So, and it was there, then I ventured into education, then edutech, then fintech. So I totally agree with what Ju Sing shared just now. I think the journey as starting off as a technopreneur, entrepreneur is pretty much the same. We have the same concern whenever we start off a new business, because we are some of us have families and children, and we have people to care for. So the bread and butter issues are very real. But actually, on top of what Ju Sing had shared very insightfully, I was also thinking of maybe sharing some of my insight when I first looked into the tech space, right? So, okay, so I know some of our audience here are looking into entering the fintech space. So my advice is that when you want to embark on your journey into the fintech space, do not see fintech as an end in itself, right? So fintech, it is a means to an end. So fin means financial and tech means, of course, technology, right? So if you marry the two words, it's basically using technology to deliver a product or services better and more efficiently. So this is where we come from when we go into this space. We want to bring to market, right? Like what Ju Sing has said, all of us, either you are from the fintech space or the tech space or the fin space, where you have enough knowledge and you see gaps in the market and you want to address them. And in order to address them, then that's how you leverage on technology to bring certain solutions and services to the market and say, hey, this is a better way, lower cost way to do things, and it's faster and better and deliver better customer experience. And this is what we want to do in the fintech space, really essentially. So of course, then the consideration before you enter is that you see this, and or you have a passion, or you feel excited about wanting to go into this space, delivering this kind of outcome, then yes, by all means, please go for it. I think we need a lot of people coming into this space to champion for using tech in and delivering solutions to our community and to our society. And I think this is very, very important. And what I do here, if I may use Singapore Global Trust as an application case study to explain how tech can be applied to our traditional financial services space to deliver better products and better services. For example, as we all know, right, the trust space is a very traditional space. In fact, like what I mentioned earlier, there's only like 60 trust company in Singapore, and mainly they are owned by the banks or law firms or big players with tens or hundreds of years of history from overseas, right? So it's a very traditional space whereby it is basically usually used to manage wealth for high net worth individual or families, right? So this is a traditional space. Then from the fintech angle, then we think of how we want to leverage on fintech to better the experience, to make it more efficient, more cost savvy for our clients. And at Singapore Global Trust, what we do is that from the onboarding, from the customer experience point of view, we are going to launch a concierge app, right? So traditionally, when you are a trust company, you have to call your trust company and then you give that direction. And everything is very manual. It's paper here and paper there, email here and email there. So with a simple concierge app, right? So our clients all over the world can access this and get in touch with us via this concierge app 24/7. And it is really easy and at their fingertip, right? So this is one area where we can use to lower our costs and then to improve customer experience in their engagement with a trust company. So this is number one. And number two, of course, in all financial services, we have the onboarding process. And then, of course, traditionally, we have the know your customer. And this is like a hygiene, like MAS will go after you if you don't do your hygiene very well. But of course, with the birth of digital assets, right, like Bitcoin, Ethereum, and things, right, we have to move beyond that because our families, our ultra high net worth individuals are holding more than just physical assets. They are no longer just holding on to estates or real estates or shares or commodities or fiat, right? They are also holding on to BTC, ETH, and stuff. And then how do this space evolve to cater to this need? So at Singapore Global Trust, what we do is that actually we have the onboarding process both for KYC, know your customer, KYT, know your transaction, and KYB, know your business. So zooming into KYT, know your transaction. So like, for example, right, if you are familiar with BTC, for example, so you will always have a wallet address, right? So in order to transfer that BTC to my wallet, it has to come from your wallet and comes from a specific wallet address. So how we do our KYT then was to have this capability to trace back, right, the wallet address of all the wallet that has interacted with you before, all the way to the original wallet. So then, of course, then we will match all this wallet address, right, to a database provided by the US government and also from the other database service provider to be very sure that, hey, that there wasn't any suspicious transaction relating to any of the wallets that you have interacted with. And this is how we do our KYT. So this is one way that enables us, right, to be able to to prepare ourselves for the digital assets, like a custodian holding at digital assets in the future, right? So this is one way that we are doing this. And I think this one will come on in a very big way going forward, because with the, right now BTC is like 50-ish K, right? I think it is set to go further, or people are getting more and more receptive to holding digital assets. And I think this is one way that we are working on using technology to address this part of our business. Then the third part of the business that we are addressing is usually using like technology, right, to improve the security and privacy of our customers. And traditionally, of course, like I mentioned just now, right, trust relies a lot on paper, right? So you have your trust deed and will write up and stuff like that. But at Global Trust, we think that there is this space to use blockchain, right, to be the underlying mechanism to securitize our wills and trusts, and such that using blockchain, right? Blockchain is a public ledger kind of technology whereby it doesn't allow any amendments to the documents once it's already set. And this is the very thing that our clients will want, right? They don't want anybody to, in the past, there is this, those emperor, right? They have this yi zhao, and then they have people that's going to alter the yi zhao, that kind of thing. So blockchain is something which we can use to better this situation, and then we can provide a peace of mind to our clients at a very low cost, because we rely on technology to do so. So this is just one example of application of technology, blockchain or AI, right? In say specifically in this case a trust space. But I think the possibility here is unlimited, right? You can apply technology to anything, so long as the spirit behind this is to better a solution to be provided to our community, to our society. I think that is the spirit behind what we should be doing while we are doing this. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I think I love the way you string the various parts together, and my takeaway is technology is just an enabler. But most importantly is what I hear is that you have leveraged on all your past experiences that you have accumulated through your many years of working, be it the UI UX and be it the blockchain, and you notice the gap in the trust industry and how you marry the various parts together. So those audience who are listening to us right now, I mean, whatever you have learned and whatever you have accumulated, it could be the foundation for your next startup business. You never know. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Ji Pyong.
Thank you.
So now if we may move on to Ni Hua, the only rose among the thorns in today's panelists. Based on your background, you started in the real estate sector, but you have swiftly pivoted to the fintech area and even recognized recently as the leading female leader in Asia in the September 2020 issue of FinTech Times. Wow, congratulations, Ni Hua. So can you share with us more about how you have moved on to this InvestTech or WealthTech, depending on how we use it, and share with us your journey, Ni Hua.
Okay, thanks, Ching Ching, and thanks for naming me as a roast. If I have been a roast, yeah, we have been withered. So I will call myself a preserved roast, so that it will stay at a prime look, Yeah, at 45, just nice for the captive audience for this webinar. So I managed to squeeze in, and thanks to the organizer for recognizing Catch Me at 45. Yeah, I think at 45 you're really very at ease with yourself. But I read that at 69 you're super happy, So I'm also looking at 69, but at 45 you're super at ease with yourself. And I didn't leave any sector by going to FinTech. In fact, it's complementary. I realized that our skill sets are more or less the same. Many people have traveled overseas, relocate to 10 countries, or for me, it's 5 cities in 10 years and travel. So how to differentiate myself with the rest is what's really niche and hot, in a market that you need to equip yourself with the skill sets. And naturally, and being in Singapore, MAS is very into in growing the fintech industry. So the technology part is actually a common horizontal across all industries, whether it's prop, construct, medical, or health. So you don't have to spend a lot of time thinking whether you should go into tech. It's an essential skills. When I graduated 20 odd years ago from NUS building, at that time, Microsoft Office suites would be enough. And people will have to fill out forms. Do you know Microsoft suites or maybe SAP or what? But today, I think the what replaced Microsoft suites of services is actually machine learning, blockchain, artificial intelligence, even coding. I'm learning to code actually.
Wow, well done.
Yeah, you're never too old to learn anything, and especially now, a lot of programs are free. So it's actually regardless of your income. In my time, you to own a laptop, you need to have money at home. To buy a very expensive laptop at 5K. Today, that laptop costs like a fraction of it. So and moreover, with COVID-19, the courses a lot of them are free. So if you're really interested, as what Jun Singh has said, it's not really difficult to get in. It's just that whether you wanted to or not, it's how your passion drive. And of course, the second part is your competency, which you might already have or you need time to build up. So how do I get into it? Actually, my journey in investments actually started with technology. And right now, the start and the end is technology. I would say it's the end. Today is not, we don't call it the end. We call it a point here at the current point. It's actually technology. And doing investments as a VC, as a corporate VC, is something that got me on to invest in prop, to infrastructure. From there, I learned my financial skills and move on from there. And why do Far East organization put me in the corporate VC part? Because I was too vocal. They want to expand my energy. So they put me in a new department. And I remember the director then said, you can afford to lose your job. If this thing doesn't work out, you're young and you don't have a family, you can afford to lose your job. So I was also involved in a few other departments. And after in 3 different departments, I realized I still love investments. And investments is something that I really enjoy. I like to do different geographies and stuff like that, and making entrepreneurs like like Jun Singh call his business projects. To us it's like so into us. It's like every day you call it projects. So that's differentiate between an entrepreneur and non-entrepreneur. I call it a business, you call it projects. So they are always into like starting, ending, custody. I know he has 100 million. So he's as intermediaries, I can go to him for some venture capital funds in future. So I'm also very good with numbers and remembering everybody's figures that you give me. So that's also one of the traits of being an intermediaries. Yeah. So and I'm combining my prop and tech as an intermediaries. In the past, I was investors myself. So because investors is actually it's a 24/7. You're one investing for the whole chain due diligence and stuff. For now, mine is referral, so I can do in different subset of the industries, and it's more fun, and also for people of my experience and age. So that's how it was done. And I volunteer at Singapore FinTech Association as a subcom, but I was seconded or proposed to be in the main community. And that's how I got to watch entrepreneurs work, and how they I know which founders get along well with their own co-founders and which don't, by watching, and what are the success of each founder. Actually, charisma is actually quite important, because if you are good, you're fast thinker like Ching Ching, you can pivot. and pivoting is extremely important skill set, and sometimes is you're born with it, and that's very very important. So and to be clear, property is not exclusive or independent of technology. Harvard Business Review actually talk about prop fintech. Prop fintech is always been confused with prop tech. Prop fintech is actually, what is prop tech? Prop tech is actually property management services that is using technology. Actually, WeWork is actually prop tech. It's not really prop fintech. Prop fintech is using financial services to make investments more efficient and also maybe more divisible. We have several several key players in Singapore who is doing blockchain investments in prop tech. So I'm also working with them to do referrals and stuff like that. I also do real physical assets. If you have family office and bungalows, we can talk about how to do asset repositioning and assets management. So it's about managing family wealth. And there are a lot of challenger banks in Hong Kong. A lot of challenger banks are actually funded by family offices who are real estate developers. So the old money is actually very useful because the old money is also very insecure today with so many technology situation happening, and they want to get into the piece of muscle. You can never be a UOB or OCBC. Like 5 years ago, you never ever thought that you can ever be a bank, own a bank in Singapore. But today, because of digitalization, because of challenger bank, your family can be a banker. You know, it's not only Wee Cho Yao. You know, you can be whatever Julian Ng Cho Yao. You know what I mean? So that's immense, and that's your pot of gold is whether you wanted to have a piece of it or not. Yeah. So that's it. Yeah.
Thank you, Nihua. I can sense your enthusiasm, and for the audience who are logging in, when there are opportunities come by your way, just like Nihua, never give up the opportunities, because that's how and where you learn. And I love the part that you say is lifelong learning, which is very true in current times. And that's the only way that we can propel ourselves forward. And that will bring me very naturally to the next panelist, who is Kelvin. I once saw a quote which states that blockchain is poised to become the Dow tone for the 21st century global economy. Can you help us to demystify the whole idea of blockchain so that our audience can understand it, and whether it's also a curated journey for you? You mentioned just now you came from tech, right? And you jump into this cutting edge blockchain community. Over to you, Kevin. Are you mute, Kevin?
Yeah, sorry. So thanks for that. So I think I shall not go too much detail into it, because I think anything that talks about blockchain in detail for public education typically takes a couple of hours. But in this case, right, blockchain is just, I would say it's a technology itself, right? It refers to a decentralized public ledger that records transactions, right, across many computers. And because there's no central point, all information stored in so many different nodes or different computers, right, it makes it hard for people to break into a single computer. Like, for instance, you talk about hacking, right? People know where to hack because they know there's a central system that people can hack into. But blockchain distributed across the world, you won't know where to actually start to begin to hack. Right. A lot of times, I think a lot of confusion is that people say, when you mention the word blockchain, people think it's Bitcoin, but it's not, right? Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency are just an application of blockchain. It is an application of blockchain that actually used for payments, investment, and as a storage of wealth or storage of value, right? So I think that's something that people need to understand. Now, in terms of getting into space, even for myself and all that, right? At first, the blockchain itself, I think it started off with a lot of talks about Bitcoin, how Bitcoin gained in value across the the entire 10 years until where it is in terms of pricing right now. But blockchain has always been there, and I think one of the first adopters of the blockchain technology, for using it as a technology and not because of crypto, is actually the banks, right? So of course, in the past, when you talk about cryptocurrency and all that, the banks tends to view that as a scam, as something that's a taboo subject, right? Which is why, even to today, they don't open bank accounts for cryptocurrency companies that easily, right? And all that, even if they are regulated. But I think for start, even back in 2014, when I first started on my blockchain journey, I think DBS Bank and the rest of the other couple of banks already started on using blockchain as a technology for trade finance, right? That means basically facilitate treatment and payments and all that, which is where Project Ubin actually got started, back in those early days. Now, it actually took a long time to actually facilitate things out, because I think obviously in the financial world, things are never easy. They're always complicated. You're looking into obviously compliance. You're looking into also, the vested interests of various banks, right? So if you're going to use blockchain, like for instance, in the recent news recently, it was announced that JP Morgan, together with DBS as well as like Temasek, started to say that, okay, can now use this particular blockchain platform to actually facilitate faster trade. Now, what does it mean? It means that now there's an alternative to the SWIFT banking network, which I think banks have been using for decades, right? So what does it mean for, for SWIFT users and all that? And there are also a lot of complications, thinking that banks will say, you have it, that's perfect, but why should I be joining this when I already have SWIFT, right? So there are these kind of complexities that take long time to resolve, but I think that is a good news that at least the first step taken out, have been started, and as well as like this is a very good success. I think very good. I think congratulations to the team, even from MES as well as like for the rest of the other banks and all that that's been involved in getting Project Ubin to actually have his first use case, and this is the first use case, right? So I think one of the biggest trend in terms of blockchain and cryptocurrency aside, which I shall explain later, is actually the execution of, or rather the use of it in financial services for doing payments, or even doing for facilitating trade finance and all that. Now, of course, if you look into value in terms of wealth and investments and even for payments, again, you're looking into cryptocurrency, right, as an application. So I think, banks have now officially said that they are actually investing, they have funds investing into cryptocurrency, right, Bitcoin and things like that. Secondly, they also allow, their clients, their wealth clients, to now start to treat cryptocurrency as an asset class in itself, right? A financial instrument where people can actually invest in as well. So I think this has come a long way from being treated as a scam as near as 2017 or 2018 to being treated as an investment. Just remember the guy from JP Morgan, right? Jimmy just said in the past that it is a scam, it's going to crash, to now saying that, oh, Bitcoin is going to go to 146,000, right, officially. So just look at it. It's just a couple of years, things have changed, right? So same thing with the rest of the banks and even like acceptance as a payment with MasterCard, PayPal, etc. Things have changed drastically. DBS made the very big news to become the first bank in the world to actually start a crypto exchange, or I would say digital asset exchange, right? So that actually start a lot of wave across the entire financial services across the world. Then you saw that there were other announcements like Spanish Bank, then you have Standard Chartered and all that going into the same space. And as the day passed by, you can see that many of the banks are actually going to this space, offering trading of cryptocurrency as well as digital assets as one of the way of paying, right? So of course the other trend is that I think has been we all adopt that the central bank digital currency, I think being started off by China. The conversation started with China having their own digital currency, which is called the DCEP. I think they started a whole wave of different countries, all the way from first world developed economies like Singapore, Japan, Korea, etc., all the way to even developing countries like in Africa, in Latin America, talking about creating their own central bank digital currency, right, to facilitate trade, investment, and stuff like that. So these are some of the ongoing trends. But of course, going towards that, right, you have decentralized finance, right? Decentralized finance has been going along for a couple of years, but I think in recent times it has gained a lot prominent because of the market cap and the traction from just probably a couple of 100 millions. It's now gone to double digit, going to triple digit billions, right? So that has come its way as well. And of course, if for people who have been noticing the news and reading Straits Times and all that, there's extensive coverage about something that's called non-fungible tokens, or NFTs for short, right? It's been covered for almost every week. You have like discussion topics on it on Channel News Asia, asking people who are involved. You have news articles on mainstream media covering that as well, not just in Singapore but worldwide. So this is a really explosive trend that's happening, and essentially NFTs are just getting your artwork or digital content that's created by you, be it artwork or be it even photography, be it even music and sound, all the way to games content, right, to be digitized and to be able to be traded, right, with a certain value. So that's something that's coming up. But again, it started off purely being virtual, right? So these are all digital contents that's virtual, but things have changed very dramatically. The first house on NFT was actually sold in Germany, right? On NFT, right? So that was the first tradable on a real world asset. Again, in Australia, they've already started to create NFT for parking lot in Sydney, because apparently parking lots are actually a very expensive, real estate, and has turned into an investment opportunity for people who are able to invest and purchase the NFT for those parking lot in Sydney, right? So again, many of these are going on, and then you have traditional media that used to be big media companies like the NBA basketball and all that. They've gone to this space. They start selling, some of the content that they have, like for instance, the baseball card that people used to purchase when young. They tear it up. They don't know what they get a card. But now it's all gone digital. So they get an NFT on the basketball pack. You do not know what you unpack, and then suddenly you have a moving video of a very rare, instant of your favorite basketball playing, right? At a certain value. So things have moved towards this particular trend, and I think it's developing even further from that. There are more use cases for all this more newfangled evolution of blockchain in not just beyond, just beyond financial services, but into other industries as well. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Kelvin. I think we could have gone on for another hour just hearing you talking about blockchain, which is with its rich vocabulary and with the latest trend on NFT. Very quickly, we'll move on to Gillian right now. Gillian has his career in both the public as well as the private sector. Then perhaps he can share with us what is his FinTech experience in both sectors. Yeah, over to you, Gillian. Yeah.
So I think when I was in the bank, what was an advantage being there was that it gave me a very broad overview of banking, right? And I think for a lot of people, when we think about banking, we think of like consumer bank, the front end stuff, and corporate banks, so very front end kind of things. But I realized, like as Jusing mentioned earlier, beyond just those, there are a lot of different functions, right? You've got your compliance, you've got your KYCs, your AML kind of functions. Even audit is a function. So I think I also use a bit of this time to address a couple of the questions, right? Where can accounting and actuary be implemented in FinTech? And I think there's a lot of in today's world, like data is the new gold, right? Data is fuel, and a lot of this kind of functions, accounting, actuarial science, runs a lot of data. With the sort of wealth in data today, I think there's a lot of growth in that space. I mean, I've encountered companies where they're able to pull out credit insights from companies' financial statements. So that's probably an aspect where you can see how accounting gets implemented in FinTech. And I think beyond, so to address sort of like job seekers kind of the angle there, what startups are known for is their agility and their ability to pivot, as mentioned a couple of times earlier. Today's world, which is very, very fast moving, trends have a tendency to come, to go, to rise, and then to fade away very quietly. Startups have this advantage going for them. So I think the ability to learn and move very rapidly is probably a very important one. And so this advantage stands out from large institutions which have their legacy processes, their systems, which slows them down. But that being said, large players have gotten to where they are for a reason. They have established trust, their processes are robust. And so while startups have the agility and innovative spirit, I think together these two sort of different entities at the crossroads, right? The large entities versus the startups, they can, while they are competing with each other, they can actually collaborate very closely with each other to sort of augment each other. So yeah, I mean, fintechs today are reaching a point of scale a lot, and that comes with a lot of data. So data is really, really the new goal, and with this data, it creates a lot of new roles as well because people, data in itself, it's not of much use. You need people who are able to sort of translate their data into palatable information to be used. Gone are the days of these green matrix-like screens. So beyond that, your UI UX people come in as well, and they play an important role in sort of allowing that data to be understood and to be used. And also, roles-wise, you're talking like product owners who have a key understanding of customers, business, as well as the technology to drive such products and services will also be in great demand. So I think there are multiple roles across the entire spectrum. For me, what I realized is the key is really to be able to constantly learn and sort of adapt to changes. When I was in the bank, I was not really focused on one particular area. And I think that gave me a very good understanding across the different sort of functions and spectrum of banking, and that has helped in my role in MAS because I mean, as a regulator, we tend to have a more sort of macro view rather than zooming down on one particular area. So in that sense, that has helped me.
Thanks for your sharing, Gillian. You have given us the breadth as well as between the private and the public sector, how actually both sides can work together. And I like this whole ecosystem of players who are able to contribute and who are able to share ideas. I think that's how we have improved. I think I'm cognizant of the time, and I do see that there are a few questions relating to acquiring the necessary skills and learning curve. And there's one particular one on key impact of FinTech on investment banking. Any one of you would like to take that? Or, yeah.
I think I can share a bit on this because previously when I was in the bank, we looked a bit at this investment banking space. So I think fintechs in general allow for access, right? I mean, if you look at say Indonesia, where Grab has provided a lot of access to people who are out in the rural areas, it's going to be similar in the investment banking space. Why do I say this? Because in the past, let's say you had to run a deal that was maybe 100 million before it makes sense for the investment bankers to look at it because it's not cheap doing the duty and all that. And then subsequently selling the deal to your sort of customer base. But with fintech, you perhaps could now be able to sort of run smaller deal sizes because certain things are more automated. The sales process could be more automated. You provide a self-serve kind of platform for institutions to access and assess the sort of deals that they are looking at. Your duty can be done in a quicker, sort of more efficient manner, so you can put it up. So deal sizes might, instead of in the past where you had to run deals of 100 mil, it could go down to like the 15 mil mark or 5 mil mark, and it still would make sense for both parties, the investor as well as the sort of institution running it. So I think it's really an access, kind of creates access. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. On this,
yeah.
I look at it from non-fintech perspective. If you look at a lot of how companies exit today, especially starting from America, and also MAS is also looking at case studies on study groups on SPAC, in which you can actually get to public markets at a faster rate with lesser fees. So I think the role of investment banking still play a role, but I think as investment bankers, if you are, and as you know, investment bankers are intermediaries as well, and also at corporate finance advisors. Is to get familiar with new methods of listing, new ways of listing, and different type of exchange. I said, if in relation to fintech, probably a different type of exchange. We have several in the market, several exchanges that are supported or invested by SGX. You as investment bankers, I think it's good if there's investment banker audience to look at all these different models, different exchanges, to pivot and to upgrade yourself.
Yeah, I think
Sorry.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Sorry, can I add on to what Julian and Nihua has shared also? So because investment banking is also quite close to my heart, so I was just adding another perspective is with regards to people, right? So in a short answer is yes, I think fintech will enhance investment banking and will not erode the important investment banking. I think what fintech will do is basically take away the technical function of investment banking, right? So that you free up the investment bankers for more people-to-people interaction. Because at the end of the day, right, what clients are looking for, of course, they are looking for returns, right? But of course, at the same time, they're looking at who they're interacting with and what kind of values that person can offer to them, not just in the form of investment, but anything else. So by having like technology to help you live this up, you can spend more time with the person, like person to person. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, John. I think further down, we also have a lot of questions with regard to mid-career professionals who are entering into the fintech world. Perhaps I'm cognizant that Joo Seng may have to leave us soon. Joo Seng, you have any feedback on that based on your wealth of experience of recruiting staff and getting new people to come on board? Yeah. Joo Seng, you're muted. Yeah.
Thanks, Ching Ching. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Okay, I think talent is the absolute key. Okay,
Right.
if you lose or don't have the right person sitting in the right seat, no amount of other people and hires will ever make up for it. So I've been very uncompromising with talent, worried whenever we become protectionist and we try to keep a lot of sort of available roles to locals. I think we need to balance that with remembering that it's a global marketplace. And if I have someone less than capable as my CTO, for example, there are, I might please a lot of locals and Singaporeans, but I will fall behind my other competitors that are trying to put their best foot forward. That said, I think Singapore has done a lot to groom talent. Our computer science department at our universities have done a great job. The quality of the candidates that graduates is phenomenal. So I have really no complaints with that. Numbers are a bit short, but I think that can't be helped given the sudden boom in tech and FinTech. We see TikTok here, Tencent here, all the big firms are here. As far as I can see, most of the major core team members of blockchain and crypto are all here, right? So we have become really a tech-based country, economy, and I think that's good. Let me just use one quick point to clarify for Nihua. Series C for MDEC, 100 million benefited the company and all the shareholders. Far be it for me to be the only one, I wish. But it's not the case. So just wanted to clarify the fact, lest the wrong impression is put across.
You have invested something else and make up for it, you know.
Let's say, yeah. So I think Spark is actually fighting for talent. And the important thing to note is that talent doesn't only go for the money. Okay, you need to build the right working environment. They need your top guys need to be in a place where they are happy to work with one another and they know they are pushing the envelope. So I think for Spark, we are probably the deepest tech in Java programming in Asia, definitely, maybe globally as far as platforms go. And this is something we're proud of. And we don't keep our team purely by money, but you can't be too far away. And the market is very hot. So it's a phenomenal challenge. I don't think regulators should throw stumbling blocks in the way because it makes a tough job even harder.
Yeah. So thank you, Justin. I'm sure in the blockchain community, even though it's not us, Kevin, looking at the manpower talent in that space, do you have anything else to contribute?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. This is probably in one of the space I'm really working heavily on with even as with WSG and all that. So I think just to share with the public a couple of things, right? There are a couple of mid-career programs change, not just for blockchain but also fintech in general. I'm going to share a couple of these over here. Not necessarily on blockchain, but it covers fintech as well, right? So again, like what Yusing just mentioned just now, sometimes it's about the talent, sometimes it's about attitude. I shall share a bit is that. You see, the problem is that in Singapore, at least in Singapore itself, right, a lot of people's mindset is that they tend to think themselves as workers for life, right? So when they go into this job and they think that, okay, the moment they graduate from the university, they're going to be there all the way until they're going to retire in age 60s and all that. But a lot of people do not realize that the world have changed, right? They no longer have an iron rice bowl. Things have evolved. The job that you have today may not be available tomorrow. The reason for that is not because the company doesn't want you, but the company no longer exists doing that kind of role, the kind of business, right? So that's something that a lot of, I think that's the first step that needs to be changed, people's mindset, right? That, things are never the same 10 years ago, 5 years ago, even 3 years ago. The mindset need to change that you need to be agile, you need to adapt to whatever is happening in the market. Like for instance, people talking about banks, right? Jobs in banks. I mean, in the next couple of years, checks will be out. Because that's been announced even a few years back that no, Singapore will not deal in clearing of checks anymore. So a few years time later, right, we will not be using checks to actually pay for things anymore. right? So that's something that people cannot accept, and unfortunately, and then obviously, from there's a lot of push for digital payments and all that, from cash to digital payment. I think that's been happening, and again, people are still trying to even to get understand and get to the mindset. But it's the same with the mindset of people looking for jobs, right? How to get into the new areas. Now, of course, the good thing is that the Singapore government has done a lot of initiatives, and of course, some of these initiatives, the polys are also involved. Like for instance, Ching, that some of the programs, the polys are actually involved in training some of these mid-career switchers. So probably I just go into that. How can people, get into this space, get trained up, and all that? So there are a couple of things that's going on, like the NQC Learning Hub. They're not just courses to the public on blockchain, but also some on fintech as well. And some of the courses, right, and for those people who are unemployed, they take those courses, they actually they pay you, right? They pay you to attend the courses. So something to look into. Then of course there are also cheaper and or sometimes almost free kind of resources like Udemy and all that, right? So spend the time, look through some of these content that there's some of these learning hubs and all that, and probably get yourself up to speed on that. Now, again, there are a couple of other, various programs that's actually offered, very, very good quality ones, like from Oxford, from MIT. You can actually see some of these already online. So this is also where I actually took one of the courses back in 2016, myself and a few of the other many celebrities in the fintech space, right? They actually took this MIT fintech course. That was the pioneer batch, right? We got into it. Again, it's not so much about, getting the information, because I think a lot of us already have the background, but it's about the networking and all that. So again, about the career change and all that, it's not just about getting enough certificates and knowledge. It's about getting to the space, network with the relevant people, and learn from them, learn from the domain experts. So programs like these actually help you to actually link with these people and network with these people as well. Again, there are also some courses on Coursera that people can go to. Some of them are for, just pay a very low price. You can get a certificate of it, very good information. I've actually gotten, like, for instance, right, a doctor friend. This guy is a medical doctor. He's deciding to try to switch into financial services to a certain extent. I got him to actually attend some Coursera courses and all that. Guess what? Now he has definitely much better knowledge in fintech, right, compared to anybody out there that's maybe even working in the financial services, that's like always been a whole life working in a particular area, right? So look into such recognized, I think resources. Last but not least, of course, there are currently, even for blockchain, right, there's the SG United Blockchain Talent Program with Singapore Poly. These are for folks that are currently unemployed, right? They go into this program, they get paid 1,200 per month salary, right? Tax-free, no need CPF, that's paid by the government for a period as long as a year. There's even an attachment that's going to company to test that out. So this is where people learn coding and all that. So this is where, people meet career switchers, even people that are pretty a certain age, like, my age, they come nearing 50s, right? They have an opportunity to, learn something new. Coding in blockchain, development in blockchain, etc. Right? So again, this is not just developing, various, just as a coder, because the whole industry, be it fintech and blockchain, is not just about developing tech talents, right, or developing people who develop coding. Let's face it, coding, right, you need to have a certain passion and interest. It's not going to be for everybody. I mean, for start, people may just try out and find it's fun, but as you go very deep into it to create really a financial system, robust kind of projects, I think that really needs a lot of passion to go really deep into it, right? So the things that there are other roles like product managers, which is always, as I mentioned in public forums, that is something that is never spoken enough of, because people either go into tech or go into business, but there is an in-between role that's called product managers, right? Product managers are actually a training regime that develops the CEOs of tomorrow. Why? Because you know the aspects of the business as a product manager, right? From developing product, you know about budgeting, you know about financials, you know about technology, you know about go-to-market, marketing, business, in terms of strategy as well. So this is a role that people should also consider getting into, which is right now there's a lack of this particular role as well. And of course, from all this training, right, you can also potentially become a business development person that's selling these services, as well as support these services as well. So there are various roles, not just in development, for both fintech and blockchain. Watch out the space for WSG, because WSG from MOM, right, has been always working very closely with organization like SG Tech, right, to come up with what we call the professional conversion program. The professional conversion programs are actually designed for mid-career switchers or people who have been working in a certain space, they want to do a new role, right? What it means is that companies who go on this program depending on the age of the staff that they have, and of course the staff must be Singapore citizen or PR, they can actually get a claim back from the government for a salary of even up to 9 months or even a year, depending on the duration of the program, right? Up to 90%. So those that are actually above a certain age, right, above 40 years, they can actually claim 90% of the salary for that staff from the government. 70% for those that are actually below 40 years. So imagine this kind of program can help companies to get some of the staff costs being subsidized. At the same time, this program actually send them for actual trainings by very good training institutions and all that. Like for instance, the up and coming one for FinTech is actually between WSG, SG Tech, and Oxford University. So it is a complete program that lasts 6 months. They cover FinTech, blockchain, cybersecurity, AI, and even consultancy training module and all that. So this will actually provide enough, I would say, training for people to go into this from a particular industry they have to get into financial services. And this is the basic. It don't make them expert, but at least it gives the foundation for people to have the enough knowledge and skill sets to get into place, and of course an Oxford certification. So these are some of the things to actually look out for. Last but not least, also there are various webinars that's coming from the associations I mentioned in Singapore. Right, watch out for those, and then get yourself upskilled by listening to the expert talk on the panel in these various webinars from these associations. I think with that in mind, right, definitely someone can then have enough understanding and then I would say at least some knowledge, right, to start off their journey to get into FinTech, as well as even potentially doing a mid-career switch. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. I think MES has done a fantastic job, and they have the Singapore FinTech Festival, which held yearly. Last year they have a little bit of a hybrid, and there's also a talent pavilion there, whereby a lot of courses, a lot of information on FinTech, cryptocurrency are all featured there. And that brings me very naturally to Gillian, him being that close to the pulse of the FinTech industry, and having worked with perhaps many multiple parties in the whole ecosystem, and he'll be familiar with courses available in the market, for example, IBF, as well as Singapore FinTech Association and WSG, SSG. Would you like to say a little bit more, Gillian?
Sure. So, it's mentioned earlier. Actually, in Singapore, fintech firms today collectively employ about 10,000 people in Singapore, and this number is expected to increase with the advent of digibanks and the tech-fin giants behind it. So, I would imagine there's a lot of roles upcoming that that you can prepare for. But as mentioned by Ching Ching as well, MES works very closely together with IBF. To offer courses to upskill staff in the areas of fintech across various different sort of functions. Also, I think you can have a look at the IBF website. A lot of them are actually subsidized as well through various schemes. But beyond that, there's also numerous job fairs organized by IBF and the Singapore FinTech Association for professionals to tap on and gain entry into this growing sector. So I believe there are also certain initiatives that will be announced shortly that will help professionals within this space grow themselves. But I think one interesting one is also the MES, the National Research Foundation, and NUS has actually set up a research institute, the Asian Institute of Digital Finance, AIDF, which offers both a master's program as well as a PhD in digital finance and fintech. So if anyone is actually really interested in going really in depth into this digital space, that could be an option for you to look at, and there are scholarships offered for that as well.
Thank you, Gillian. Indeed, there are many opportunities that are available in the market today. It's whether you want to jump onto the bandwagon and get yourself equipped. Perhaps one last question, I will leave it to Nihua. Women entering into this space, you have any encouraging words for them?
I think there's a lot of, especially currently, there's a lot of talks about diversity, inclusion, women not given a lot of opportunities, men telling them to not talk too much. And when men talk too much, it was just put aside, and it was the right thing to do. I think I always been in a male-dominated field. Being in a non-male dominated field is a bit uneasy for me because it's not the right atmosphere, although I come from a girls' school, but my working career has always been in a male-dominated field. For my perspective, I just ignore the gender. I'm always been very vocal, and And rather than looking at pitfalls ahead or problems ahead and looking at statistics that less women are in directorship positions, just do your best and carve out a career for yourself in the area and passion that you're passionate about. I think that is more important, and be yourself. If someone says that you talk too much, you just tell them that you love to talk, and that's it. And you probably be in the field where you're a motivator, you're business development, and so on. Don't let someone stereotype you or put you in a position where you cannot grow or undermine your confidence, and that's important. And another thing is that have a curiosity to learn. Don't treat it as a job or divide the salary by number of hours you put in. It's very dismaying. Rather treat it as something that you want to learn it. It's also good for your family if you are a career woman with 3 kids. To get you in touch with the latest trend in technology, share it with your children, know what games they are playing and why are they so captivating. Learn about YouTubers. I think all these are your attitude. So if you are a woman trying to get into the field, I think I prioritize action. Don't prioritize thinking. Of course, you need to think, but action is actually more critical. And if you look at a lot of the books on entrepreneurs, how they do it, they all prioritize actions. People who set up association that I know, they prioritize action, and then they solve problems along the way. So I think as a caregivers, we are women as caregivers, we are more low risk because we need to make sure our children are fed. Um, I think we should also think about balancing about doing more actions, doing something for yourself. That's really critical. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love that, Yuhua. A lot of us, we don't do self-care or we don't take good care of ourselves. At the end of the day, in this pandemic, it really brings home to the point that all the ecosystem players all are here to support each other and to learn from each other. At the end of the day, I mean, Singapore is so small. We have all the resources here to help us to reskill, upskill, and we are there to support the population as a whole. And just like what Kevin has said, there are many opportunities with the association as well as the industry players have come together, and Gillian has given us an overview of how government, the different bodies have come together. And very often, Chi Kyong is the one that take up the bandwagon and say that I will be the first to come on board, and to learn together. I think I have a very fruitful learning from all of you today, and I would like to thank all the panelists who really have very authentic sharing about their own FinTech journeys that all of us learn from here. And of course, very thankful to our organizers, AgTech, as well as Hidden, to bring all of us together. If we don't have further questions from the rest, we would like to have call this to an end for this webinar.
Chin, may I just share one last point?
Sure, John, go ahead.
From player perspective, just a very small point.
Yes.
I just want to let our audience know that a fintech company is just like any other company, right? So it's not just fin and tech. There are within the company there is the marketing, compliance function, sales function, customer experience function. So for our audience who are making a mid-career change, right? Do not throw away your base skill, because as employers, I always look for your base skill first, right? So it can be marketing or sales or customer experience, compliance, etc., etc. But there also must be illustrations of your understanding of tech. Like for example, like what Kevin has mentioned just now, pick up a course with Coursera, Emeritus, on blockchain, on AI, to show us that on your base skill you are good, and then you have an understanding in the tech space. I think that would be a plus point when you go for your job interviews and application. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah. You hit it right home, the right message, meaning to say that don't throw away your core skills or your basic skills, for you can grow and build upon it. And I think that's how a lot of us from here, we actually learn from our basic degree. We acquire our knowledge in the various jobs that we go to, and we build from there. And it's never a wasted journey in one way or another. So
Can I share one slide on the job? current
Yes.
jobs available for
Yes, Nihua, please.
FinTech companies. Yeah.
Yeah, please
So
go
can you
ahead,
see?
Nihua.
Yeah, so
Not
that
yet.
the audience can take a snapshot.
Not
Fraxter is looking for marketing position. You need not have FinTech technology
right.
skills.
Right.
Geomatics, AI, programming, and Doxa have also programming. So it's actually a very big range.
Right.
And Fraxter is a top FinTech companies. So I think just for audience to take a snapshot and they can approach the company directly. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and just like a lot of audience who says that don't be afraid to go for this networking sessions, and perhaps you may meet your next employer, and you may meet your next peer in the same company. And thanks for sharing, Nihua, on the job that is available in the fintech market. Yeah. So I think with that sharing, I think we can bring this to an end. Salfong, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Ching Ching, Jusing, Chika, Niwa, Kevin, and Julian for this interesting and inspiring discussion. I feel that I just had a crash course in fintech, actually. It is well said that technology is an enabler. It is never too late to switch from where you are at your career to this growing industry, especially what Justin said, this is the Cairo moment. It is interesting also to even know that a doctor could jump into this very interesting industry. Our current skill sets, experience, and network could definitely enhance our career journey in this. You brought us perspective from financial services, technology, and digital solutions so that our audience can better understanding what's happening now with fintech and what we should be looking at in terms of skills needed in accelerating one's career or even pivot to the fintech industry. To the participants, thank you for joining us. That wraps up wraps up LearnTech Asia Success to Job in Fintech series. Thank you to my colleague Renji and Shihui, who are backstage and working hard to make this session happen. For those of you who missed any of these sessions, we will be posting a video of this discussion at learntechasia.com. My name is Sao Fong Ho, the head of LearnTech Asia. See you next time.